Right, so we're beginning process relational philosophy this week, and it's going to take us through to the end of the course. So your assigned reading this week is the beginning of the book all the way through chapter 2. And Mesli's personal preface begins unusually with love. You're not going to find philosophers beginning with love very much in their philosophy texts, but he describes his family, students, and the feeling of waves, returning to the sea, really cool stuff. He suggests that what we cherish exists not in spite of change, but because of it. So what we cherish exists not in spite of change, but because of change. So this emphasis contrasts very much with quite a bit of Western philosophy, which you've seen, which has prioritized being, unchanging, timeless reality. None of this is new to you. So being gets prioritized over becoming, which feels fleeting or unstable. So think about it. From Plato's perfect forms to René Descartes' search for fixed substances, many traditions have looked for what stays the same. Mesli and Whitehead, and this book is an introduction, as you can see in the title, to a philosopher named Alfred North Whitehead, very powerful, thinking, influential philosopher. Mesli and Whitehead ask us to consider whether what is more real might actually be what evolves. So whether what is more real might actually be what evolves. What if the self is not a thing, but a process of memory and connection? These are the big questions, right? That's an example of one of the big process questions. Now, the chapter, A Process Relational World, its main idea is radical. The universe is made of interrelated events and not static things. Mountains erode, stars explode. Each moment unfolds into novelty or newness. Whitehead calls this the creative advance into novelty. So the creative advance into something new, into newness. In this view, there is no fixed future, which is waiting to be discovered. Only possibilities to be chosen and created. So no fixed future waiting to be discovered, only possibilities waiting to be chosen and created. This idea raises a lot of questions. If the future does not exist yet, how does that change our sense of responsibility? What if no one, not even God, with either a capital G or a little g or however you think of God, knows, so not even God knows exactly what comes next because it depends on our decisions completely. So the future is completely open. So Mesli's going to go on and argue that how we think about the world influences how we live in it. How we think about the world influences how we live in it. This is important. Believing everything is separate and static can make us cling to control and permanence. If you believe something is static, it's going to move you toward clinging to permanence. Seeing reality as a web of becoming might instead nurture flexibility, care, and humility. Mesli goes on. Imaginative generalization describes a different philosophical method. So rather than starting with absolute certainties like René Descartes, Whitehead proposes that we start with experience. We start with what we experience. So experience is always the starting point, such as walking by a lake, or feeling time pass, or drinking a cup of coffee in the morning. So we start with those experiences, and then we build imaginative generalizations. From there, we return to experience to see if our ideas fit. This is kind of Whitehead's metaphysical approach. So one more time, Whitehead proposes that we start with experience, what we experience in the world, and then kind of go off in our minds, in our metaphysical ways of contemplating reality, and build imaginative generalizations, whatever that means for you in your philosophical, metaphysical thinking. And from there, bring those back to experience to see if our ideas fit with what actually is. Okay? So this method balances ambition with humility. It asks big questions about the nature of reality while admitting that all answers are provisional. You see that? The goal is not perfect certainty, but ideas that are coherent, applicable, and responsive to the richness of life. And hopefully you're starting to catch why process philosophy is popular, because it kind of gives us a middle way. We start with experience, but we're also doing imaginative generalization, which is doing metaphysics, right? In other words, bringing those metaphysical ideas back into reality and seeing if they work. Now, one difficulty in exploring process thought is language. Words like experience, time, or God are completely saturated with older assumptions, older Western static assumptions. Whitehead believed these terms had to be stretched to express new insights. So he's going to work a lot with these terms and stretch them and just try to stretch us beyond what we normally associate with these terms. He is going to help us think differently about that, which is a very philosophical move. So Mesli, the author of our text, invites us to begin with the concrete, our own experience, just like we were just talking about with Whitehead's metaphysical method. So Mesli invites us to begin with our own experience. He then asks whether life really feels like a fixed record already played, or like standing in the surf at the beach, each wave arriving fresh, each choice completely real, an actual choice. So this is more than abstract speculation, which I've mentioned already. If reality is relational and dynamic, then our actions help create what comes next. This vision can influence our ethics, spirituality, and sense of belonging. We are responsible for each other, not only by command, but because we are woven into the same unfolding process. This is a powerful thought that comes out of Whitehead's work. Mesli suggests that this approach can reshape how we see ourselves, our communities, and even the divine, God with a capital G, God with a lowercase g, however you think of the divine. Okay, so that's a little introduction to what you're going to be reading this week. I'll do these kinds of introductions for Process weekly. This is a little different from our really short videos in the first part of the course. One thing's for sure, I am absolutely looking forward to your posts and hearing all of you work through this in your posts and seeing your responses to each other, which have been really, really good. So I'm really enjoying this class with all of you, and I hope you're having a wonderful week, and I hope the midterm was okay for everybody. And we will get back to our reading and posting and responding this week, so I will see you all online. Have a wonderful morning.